Oh no, it's a land of immigrants. It's a land of immigrants. That country, together with Canada, belong to the First Nations. Yes. These are the people, all of them, they immigrated to the US. So you, Donald Trump, who gives you the permission to define who is a foreigner in the US and who is not? Where did you come from? You always trace your roots to Germany and stuff like that. Some other people trace their roots to Ireland and some places. So are you more American than somebody who crossed the border from Mexico the other day? Or Honduras, or Nicaragua, or Haiti, or Tanzania, or Kenya? Are you? It's a land of immigrants, as it is. So that language about who is a foreigner, I mean, it doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. But politicians who want to win votes usually deploy that kind of language because they know it's a motive. And it's easy to scapegoat Mexicans and Haitians and many people, Black people from Africa. It's very easy. You do that. But it doesn't mean that any less, entitled to what America has than you by dint of the fact that you have been there longer or by dint of the fact that you're white, Pipita, I want to say something about abductions. One, I don't know. You see, when you choose to fight against autocracy, dictatorship, that's a high stakes business. If we were to describe it as such, it's high stakes, It's not like a walk in a park. So there are consequences for that. There are consequences for standing up to Idi Amin in Uganda. It could just get you killed. Or any dictator you can think of, or Abacha in Nigeria. You could actually get killed. Or you could be locked up for so long, for many, many years. Or under any one-party state in Africa, whether it was under Jomo Kenyatta, Daniel Moi here, you could be detained without trial. You don't appear in court. You just abducted from your home and you are completely forgotten in some dungeon. Completely. If you die from there, so be it. If you survive and get out in good health, so be it. No one gives a damn. So if you choose to fight against autocracy and at the same time you expect the autocrat to receive you with flowers, it doesn't work like that. It does not. It does not work like that. And therefore, if an autocrat would abduct people or disappear people, and then those who remain succumb to fear and intimidation, of course they will prevail. They are going to prevail. They will. What do? Just decapitate the movement. Just target people at the helm. And then you instill fear in them. And then when you release them, they spread that fear to the rest of the movement. Now, you win the war psychologically. In fact, wars are usually won like that, psychologically. When you defeat your opponent,
Is it me or Western has disappeared?
We can hear you.
Okay. Can you hear Western?
We can't hear him.
I don't think I can hear Western Shilaho. Malia, can you hear Western?
No, I can't.
I think we've lost Western. Let's recycle Western because I think I'm a potato one time, and people might think we have dropped.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
Welcome, Home Run with Pipi.
Karibu sana kwenye Home Run PP, ladies and gentlemen. It's always a pleasure to have you here. It's 6:30 East African time. Hope you're doing amazing wherever you are. And of course, we are getting Western Shilaho as he is reconnecting. I don't know if Ismail Luta has something to add hapo hivi kwenye hii conversation. Ismaili.
My comment will be, I will be a bit reserved when we are talking about our neighbors and foreigners and lumping our problem or attributing our problem to be the causal factor of our problems. They are not. A few of them could be rogue, but most of them are just poor Rwandans, poor Ugandans, poor Burundians, just trying to eke a living. As Kenyans, as we have been entering the lower middle class, there are some works which the pay makes them to be untenable for normal Kenyans to do. House help for 6,000 per month for a normal Kenyan will not be very eager to take that job. And that's why you are seeing Ugandan's lady crossing the border in droves to come and take up those jobs. So it's not like these guys are taking major work opportunities for Kenyans. No, they're just taking very, very low paying, high demanding jobs, basically domestic work. So let's not attribute our problems to them. Are there a few of them who are rogues, who are selling drugs? Yes. Who are running brothels? Correct. Should we implicate all of them? We are saying no. And I think I agree with Western Shihalo when he said that the ones who are in the wrong business, they are known and they are protected. But with the people within our country, so still it goes back to our corruption allows the wrong business to be run by a few of those foreigners. As a person who has lived outside this country, I'm usually very cautious and sometimes apprehensive when I start hearing people blaming foreigners. As a person who knows that one time foolish Kenyans can burn this country, and one time I can wake up as a refugee in another country, I'm also very guarded to start blaming foreigners on our problems. But do we have a problem with our foreign policy? Definitely yes. What are the few examples? The few examples will be the dotted foreign military bases in the country, where even as a Kenyan, you cannot access some areas because they are within the areas covered by the foreign military bases in this country. Another problem with our foreign policy is when you go fighting in a country which half of the Kenyans cannot pinpoint it on the map by the name of Haiti. And then when Russia comes in and China comes in, because you had intended to transform the mission from a Kenyan-based mission to a United Nations-sponsored mission, Russia vetoes it, China vetoes it, and you remain with a bill of 1.7 billion in your basket. you remain very embarrassed with that bill. Why should we spend 1.7 billion in Haiti when we don't have classrooms for CBC? When we have a myriad of problems within our country? So true, our foreign policy is lopsided, not Kenyan-centric, but seems to be serving some masters across the Atlantic. Thank you.
Hiyo kitu ya Haiti inanikasirisha because you know, you can't tell me bwana eti mtu alichukua pesa kutoka ya eti aliambia mtu nataka uende dukani uninunulie mkate na maziwa na uniongezee mayai. Ukifika huko hivi bado sijakutumia pesa, wewe uninunulie mkate na maziwa, ni uniletee ni kule, bado sijakuwekea pesa. This Haiti story is very, by the way, it's more than 2 billion shillings imeenda Haiti and we have not been paid a shilling. They told us where to endeni to. How do you send your people with your own money to go to fight a country that does not border you in any of the 4 corners of the country? Hey, Clinton, I see your hand is up. What's up?
Yes, yes. By the way, sorry people, nilitoka when Mr. anaitwa alikuwa anapeana nini yake idea yake hapo, nikatoka kidogo, but now I'm back. Ismail. So I want to address Ismail. Kuna some point alimake pale, and I feel it's better if we hear the other side of the story too. Tusikwe watu wa ku lean on one side. We need to hear both sides of the story ndio tuone which one is better to follow and which one is better to discard. Ismail alisema kuwa we should not ask those guys who were abducted about the ordeal of what they went through because they are still traumatized and they are not able to speak because they fear for their lives after what has happened to them. So my only worry or my only concern with all this issue ni kitu moja tu. Yeah? Abductions zinafanyika because the government thinks that these guys are a threat to civic education, right? I mean, the government wanafikiria kuwa if these guys continue with what they are telling the people on social media, then there's going to be a revolution or it's going to be a movement against its administration. So which means that whatever they went through there, whether positive or negative, had something to do with stopping them not posting whatever they are doing. That's correct, right? So, wewe umetoka pale, you have been abducted, wamekupeleka through a series of traumatization, I don't know, test, etc. Then umemanage kutoka. Then you're dropped somewhere and within the country, ukaambiwa now find your way home. You know, Kenya is full of people like that, bro. We can't lie and assume that everything is happening in Kenya, especially in the it's called it what? Activism space is all real and it's all correct. Don't assume that every activist anasema kitu ya ukweli. Ama kila msana anapiga vita government anasema kitu ya ukweli. Yeah, most of us here are employed. Some of us are working on a self-employment scheme. Sindio? But sasa kuna ule mtu anategemea hiyo tweet yake kupata daily bread. Ama anategemea hiyo tweet yake kulipa rent. Yana job, hakuna place atafika end month aenda aingize card kwa ukuta pesa itoke. Asipo tweet, atapata hiyo do na atapata kulipa rent. People like that exist. And trust you me, 99% of those who are abducted wako kwa hiyo bracket. Naget. So mi nataka pia Mr. Ismail ajiweke kwa hii situation where yeye sasa mwenyewe he's running something, for example a company. Let's use a health company for that matter. Yeah. Then kuna one person or one patient kwa hiyo ametoka kwa hiyo company yake ya health company is disseminating information to the public about his company being incompetent. Yeah. Then Mr. Ishmael decided to abduct this guy so this guy can feel the fear and stop talking negative about Mr. Ishmael's company. Then Mr. Ishmael decides to let this guy go because he knows that the effect, the impact of killing this guy, for example, can be so impulsive on his company mpaka hata ifungwe. So ana intimidate huyu patient to a point when huyu patient anakubali anakubali kwa public kuwa I will not be posting anything bad about your company because I think right now for the past 1 week umeni abduct, vitu zimechange. The things I used to talk about, I was lying. Maybe nilikuwa tu under the influence of something, but mi na feel ni kama unafanya kitu poa. So you as the person who was buying ideas from this patient, telling you negative things about this company, hauna rights ya kuuliza huyu patient, what evidence do you have kushow mimi kuwa ni huyu msee alikuwa abduct akakufanyia 1 2 3 na sasa unataka kutuambia kuwa tusiongee mbaya kuhusu huyu mtu because I think amechange. So mi swali langu ni isn't it right sisi kama watu tumekuwa tukitweet end abduction tujue what really transpired? Yes, we know you are traumatized. We know you are kept in a dark room. Nobody was there with you. People was not there. Clinton was not there. Dolphin hakuwa na wewe. Nobody was there with you. How hard is it for you to just tell us? Sisi kama watu tumekuwa tukikutweet na kupigania mpaka tuna hold space wewe uachiliwe. Kwa nini tu usituambie siku nilishikwa nilipelekwa hapa, niliambiwa hii na nikafanyiwa hii. Kufika mpaka point ya mimi kutolewa nilifanya hii na niliconfess hii. Right? That's why I don't believe in social media activism. Activism wa ukweli ni wale walikuwa wanafanya hizi activism without social media. Na get Mr. Pipi. So mimi sioni anything bad. Ukiuliza mse aliadaptiwa alipitia nini? Na kama hawezi kusema kitu alipitia, kwa nini unamtrust kuwa ni kweli vitu na tweetingi ama vitu na postingi ni vitu za ukweli? Yeah? Tunajua somebody like Aoko was abducted once a time. But ukiangalia tweet zake mpaka saizi, hakuna kitu imechange. The same thing she used to tweet before being abducted is the same thing she's tweeting even after getting out of abductors' hands. So, Mr. Ishmael, there is no problem with we Kenyans or we citizens holding these guys who were abducted responsible for what they went through. Because they are all Kenyans, they should tell us what they went through. Ndio tujue ukweli kumbe hii kitu ni real. Wewe huwezi toka kuabductiwa ukuje uniambie mimi I want to lay low for a while na sisi tumeshinda kukipiga kelele wewe utolewe. So meaning our shout ama sisi kupiga kelele was just for you to come out instead wewe kutoka na utuambie nilipitia place A, B, C na nikafanywa hii. So you lay low and you tell us ufai kuuliza watu kitu waliwapitia because they are still traumatized. Mr. Pipi, if you go through the psychology of human brain, the first thing that happens when a person is abducted is fright, right? Kumaanisha kuwa huyo msee anakuanga na uoga. Na hiyo uoga inaweza kulast even for like a year or months. So ukitolewa, adrenaline inafanyanga nini Mr. Pipi? It will tell you ukuwe na hiyo haja kuambia msee, nimehepa kwa meno ya simba, nilifanya A, B, C, D nikahepa. Huwezi kuja kutuambia nilihepa kwa meno ya simba lakini sitaki kuongelelea kitu ilifanyika. What if alien alitokea mahali akakusaidia kutoka kwa hiyo meno ya simba akakwambia usiseme kitu ilifanyika? So if these abductees are very very serious with what they went through, they should hold a press statement, they narrate to us from A to Z on what happened during the abduction. So sioni shida mtu akiuliza an abductee what you went through. Thank you.
Mania Davis.
Thank you, Pipi. I think I just want to side with what Ismail Luta has said, that some people are like sadists, and so they feel entitled to the abductees telling their story. People react differently to issues. We don't know what threats they might have been given. Maybe they were told that they will be killed, or their parents will be killed, their loved ones will be killed, or they were threatened with one thing or another. That's why they're reluctant. And number two, like, they also look groggy. They look like they were medicated. So, and they've been going to the hospital to get treatment. So I don't think that we are entitled to any explanation. We know that they were abducted and they were released. Whatever happened between there, it's not, we are not entitled to it because we were campaigning for them to be released, you know. So I don't think they owe us, and people react differently to issues. For example, Kibet Bull is supposed to be right now in Tel Aviv University studying, so he would not like to antagonize the government. Then they arrest him and he loses that opportunity. The rest, because I think the ones I've observed closely is just, I've not seen Muteti, I've just seen Billy, the one who has been a bit vocal, and Kibet Bull. So it's very understandable. And whether they decide to come out with what happened, if at all even they can remember, you know, sometimes you're also given drugs which may give you amnesia and you may not remember what even happened. You may just remember that you were taken and then you were dropped out, dropped somewhere. So I don't know why Kenyans are so adamant that, can you give us, give us the exactly what, like, immediately you are free because we campaigned for you, should have had a press conference. What about if they were told that if you tell anybody what happened, we're going to kill your parents, So I think let's leave it to them to decide when they'll be, if and when. If they'll never be ready, that's also fine. If they forgot, they can't remember it because they were dragged or because it was very traumatic, that's also fine. The important thing is that they were abducted, and the CCTV cameras showed that they were abducted. And they were released after a lot of noise, a lot of campaigning, and even pressure from foreign countries. So for me, I don't see any problem with that. Let them feel free. Let them take time even to bond with their families. They haven't been with their families for about 2 weeks or so. So they need their time. They need their personal time to get their health back together, to be checked whether there's anything that could be injured. If maybe they could have done some electrocution and whatever, shock, and maybe it affected their brains. They need time. I don't know why they were just let free on Monday. Is it? So today is Wednesday. So what's the hurry? They don't, by then, I'm not even asking. What I'm getting from them is, when I look at them, what I see, that especially Billy, because I've seen him a few times in different interviews. When I look at him, I can just see he looks traumatized, and he looks like he was drugged, and he looks so scared. And Kibet Bull looked more courageous, but we don't know. Some of these things, like what happens with Al-Shabaab. You hear Al-Shabaab usually come and pick, they want medics where they are in the bundus. So they come to Kenya, they scout for maybe a medical student, they drag the person, they bewitch the person, and then the person loses memory or loses awareness. And by the time they come back to their senses, they are deep in Somalia. And they're being held captive, that you have to treat these people who have been wounded in the war. Now, do you expect such a person in the event that maybe he's rescued by AMISOM or is rescued by KDF? Do you expect such a person to be very open to start telling you what really you went through, and half of what happened he cannot even explain logically? Because I hear so many such cases of you are just taken, you don't know how did you move from even point A to point B. you just found yourself there. And then they keep on, like in TZ, they have this thing where they say, like they can make you into a zombie through witchcraft, and then you go and start working in someone's farm, and you can't leave, and you can't even remember who are your people, you know. So when it comes to those clandestine kind of operations, there's a lot of fishy things that go on and tactics, which are, because this is extrajudicial, so they can do whatever they want. They can use electrocuting you or electroshocking you. They can, you know, put you in cold water. Understand they were sleeping on very cold floor, which felt like tiles, and they were eating like twice a day. But like Akina Njage, Bob Njage, them they were eating, I think, once a day or so, and showering after 4 days, you know, those kinds of things. And like there's so many blanks, and some of those blanks, even they might be even humiliating, that someone, especially men, you know, a man in our society, you're not supposed to associate yourself with victimhood. You know, it seemed to be weak. So maybe they also touched your private areas, or they, you know, they stripped you naked and all this. You don't want to share that kind of a humiliation in front of the whole country. You prefer to keep it to yourself and put it behind you. You can forget it even. So kindly, let's avoid labeling that these people are pretenders. I don't know, they were bought, this and the other. Because the activism, how can you say the activism is not real, yet it's portraying the mood of the country, and it's portraying what is actually happening in the country. That doesn't make it, and they are reaching lots of people than even the activists who physically go to the streets. The activism is more far-reaching, and that's why they were even abducted, because they are more effective than Akina Boniface Mwangi. So those ones, they on public policy, I feel like we need to tighten our immigration laws and the checks and balances, because there's a lot of people who are entering into the country who are rogue, you know, like people who are fugitives, like this guy Hashim, who killed the Somali ladies. That is somebody who had already killed 3 people in Ethiopia. So how did he end up in Kenya? Even he has a Kenyan ID. Less than 3 years ago, he was in Ethiopia as a policeman. He had killed his wife, his father, and I don't know who else. And then how did he find himself? How did he end up in Kenya? And how did he get documents? He has a driving license for Kenya. He has a birth, not birth certificate, but an ID of Kenya. So where did he get these things? You know, and the problem is, with the way we are becoming so porous, and the corruption which is in the immigration department, we really have a big problem. The other day I saw police have unearthed, or they were given a tip to unearth a meth lab. So now methamphetamines, which is a very toxic drug, one of the most toxic drugs, is being manufactured in Kitengela someplace. And it was on a tip off, meaning if that person didn't tip them, by now those drugs would have been made and sold. And the people who are behind it was a South American, I think Brazilian, or one of those drug countries, and a Nigerian. Those are the main people with the operation. So we have a problem with foreigners in this country, even brothel business. So even